The cruelest thing you can do to a human being is to give them everything they ask for. An old mother spent her entire life tearing off pieces of her own flesh just to feed her children. But when she finally had nothing left to give, they didn't weep for her sacrifice. They stared at her empty hands and called her useless. The hammer fell. Iron rang against steel. An old man stood in the suffocating heat of the forge, his skin like cured leather, his eyes pale and steady. This was Silas. He worked with fire and earth. He understood the violence required to make a thing strong. Outside his workshop, the harsh wind off the gray ocean whipped against the stone walls. It was a brutal coastline. Things survived here only if they knew how to fight the storm. Silas did not believe in soft hands. He believed in scars. He believed in the friction that hardens a soul. He lifted the glowing metal with heavy tongs and plunged it into a trough of black water. The iron screamed, steam filled the dark room, smelling of sulfur and wet ash. Silas watched the metal turn cold. Only then did he turn to the doorway. A woman stood in the threshold. Her shoulders were slouched and hollow. Her gray hair hung in thin, lifeless strands against her weathered cheeks. She looked like a house that had been completely gutted by thieves, left with nothing but a fragile wooden frame.
"They took it all,"
she whispered. Her voice was cracked dry as winter bark. Silas set his tongs down on the anvil. He did not ask who she meant. He already knew.
"I gave them my youth,"
she said, taking a trembling step forward.
"I worked until my fingers bled so my sons would never know the cold. I ate the scraps so they could have the meat. I built a wall around them to keep the world from leaving a single bruise on their skin."
She choked on a dry sob, clutching her own empty hands against her chest.
"Yesterday I asked them for help. My bones ache, my cupboards are bare. And my eldest looked at me with eyes as cold as river stones. He said I was a burden."
She fell to her knees on the soot-stained floor.
"Why?"
she begged.
"I poured every drop of my life into them. Why did it turn to poison?"
Silas stepped away from the anvil. He looked down at the weeping woman. There was no pity in his face. Pity was a useless element. He offered only truth.
"You did not give them love,"
Silas said, his voice low and grinding like stones rubbing together.
"You gave them a cage, and now you expect the prisoners to sing for you."
She looked up, stunned. The words struck her like a physical blow.
"Stand up,"
Silas commanded.
"Tears will not teach you what you have broken. Come with me. I will show you what your blind devotion has done."
He led her out the back of the forge, away from the roaring heat, into a damp, walled garden. The wind howled above them, but inside the heavy stone walls, the air was still and suffocating. Silas walked to a corner where a young birch tree stood. It was tied rigidly to 3 thick iron stakes with heavy ropes. The soil beneath it was soaked, dark, and drowning in water.
"Look at this tree,"
Silas said.
"I planted it 5 years ago. I watered it every morning. I shielded it from the wind. I tied it up so it would never bend, never struggle, never have to fight for its own height."
Silas drew a curved hunting knife from his belt. With 3 quick, violent motions, he slashed the ropes. Without the iron stakes holding it up, the young tree immediately groaned. The trunk was thick, but the wood was soft, spongy, and weak. Slowly, under its own pathetic weight, the tree leaned. The roots, shallow and lazy from being overwatered, tore through the wet dirt. With a sickening crack, the birch collapsed into the mud.
"When you remove the struggle, you remove the strength,"
Silas said, staring at the fallen wood.
"You never let your children face the wind. You watered them until their roots rotted, and now you are angry that they cannot stand on their own."
The mother stared at the dead tree, trembling.
"Come,"
Silas said. He turned and walked back toward the forge. He brought her to the heavy iron hearth. Next to the fire pit lay a massive pile of dry, split oak logs. A small, hungry flame flickered in the center of the ashes. It was struggling, fighting for air, glowing deep orange.
You fed them.
Silas muttered, staring into the pit.
You fed them until you were empty.
He grabbed a massive oak log and threw it directly onto the small flame. Then another and another. He piled the heavy wood high, burying the fire entirely. The light vanished. The heat died. A thick, acrid smoke began to billow from the pit, stinging their eyes. The fire was suffocating.
The flame needs wood to burn,
Silas said, coughing in the gray smoke.
but throw too much on it at once, and you crush it. You choke it. It cannot breathe.
He pointed a soot-stained finger at the smoking, lifeless pile.
You gave them so much comfort, you smothered their humanity. You took away their hunger, their drive, their need to strive for anything. You made them full, and a full belly breeds a lazy soul. They do not hate you because you are a burden. They hate you because deep down, they know you are the one who made them weak.
Silas turned his back on the suffocated fire. He walked to a heavy oak chest resting in the darkest, dampest corner of the forge. He lifted the iron latch. Inside lay a thick bundle of fine white sheep's wool. He lifted the heavy bundle and set it on the workbench before the mother. Slowly, he peeled back the soft, pristine layers. Beneath the wool lay a broad iron shield. It had been forged for war, meant to deflect arrows and turn the edge of heavy blades. But it had never seen a battlefield. It had never been struck. It had been wrapped tightly in the wool and hidden away in the dark, perfectly safe from the violence of the world. Silas raised his bare fist and struck the center of the shield. The metal shattered. It crumbled like dried clay. A cloud of red dust filled the air. The iron had rusted completely through, eaten alive from the inside out.
You protected them from the world.
Silas whispered, picking up a handful of the rusted flakes and letting them fall through his calloused fingers.
But in the dark, soft comfort of your absolute protection, the dampness settled in. Iron needs to strike and be struck to maintain its temper. A mind needs friction. A spirit needs resistance. By keeping them perfectly safe in the soft wool of your devotion, you allowed the rot to consume them. Now, at the first strike of hardship, they shatter.
The mother wept, her tears mixing with the soot on her face. The truth was agonizing. Silas grabbed her by the arm. His grip was unyielding, like the jaws of a trap. He did not pull her toward the warmth of the hearth. He pulled her toward the heavy timber door that led out to the open cliffs. He threw the door open. The freezing coastal gale hit them like a physical wall. Salt spray lashed against their skin. The ocean roared 100 feet below, violent, gray, and merciless, smashing against the black rocks. The mother shivered violently, crossing her arms, but Silas forced her to look. He pointed to the very edge of the precipice. There, jutting out of the jagged granite, grew an ancient coastal pine. It was twisted. It was scarred. It was completely exposed. The violent wind battered its branches relentlessly, stripping away the weak needles.
Look at the pine.
Silas roared over the sound of the storm.
It has no shelter. It has no mother to block the wind, but look at the roots.
Thick, knotted roots gripped the stone like the talons of a massive bird. They had driven themselves deep into the hairline fractures of the cliff, splitting the granite.
The storm did not kill the tree,
Silas said, dropping his hand.
The storm forced the tree to anchor itself. It does not ask the wind for mercy, and the wind respects it. It survives because it was never denied the privilege of fighting for its own life.
He pulled her back inside and slammed the heavy door, cutting off the howl of the ocean. The sudden silence in the forge was heavy. The mother stood shivering, staring at her own calloused, empty hands.
I thought love was giving everything.
She whispered, broken.
That is not love, that is surrender.
Silas said, stepping back into the shadows of the forge.
True devotion is not removing the burden, but forging the shoulders to bear it. It is not shielding them from the cold, but handing them the flint to start their own fire. It is not handing them the harvest, but giving them the plow. It is not dying so they can live comfortably, but living fiercely so they learn how to survive.
He picked up his heavy hammer, resting it against the anvil.
You must stop bleeding for those who will not bandage your wounds. You must stop offering your flesh to empty stomachs that refuse to hunt. Go home, lock your door, eat your own bread. Let them face the wind. Let them starve a little. Only then will they learn the value of the harvest. Only then will they look back at you and see a mother instead of a servant.
Look at your own hands. Are they empty? Have you poured your time, your wealth, and your very life force into people who only ask for more? You tell yourself that your sacrifice is noble. You tell yourself that good people give without expectation. But look closely at what you are building. Are you raising strong, resilient souls? Or are you wrapping weak iron in soft wool, waiting for it to rust? The brutal truth of this life is that boundless generosity breeds absolute entitlement. When you become the permanent shield for someone else, you steal their opportunity to grow armor of their own. You are not helping them. You are making them helpless. Stop carrying the weight of able-bodied people. Stop burning yourself alive just to keep others warm. Let them face the cold. Let them feel the heavy friction of existence. It is the only way they will ever learn to stand. If this truth resonated with you, like this video so it can reach those who need it most. Subscribe for more timeless wisdom. Comment "I release the weight" to seal this lesson.